Welcome to a new episode between Doctors and Friends. We have here the doctors, Dr. Foz and Dr. Ray, and we have some speakers who attended. Dr. Foz, how are you doing this week? We haven't done this in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in like a year and a half. It's only been 2 weeks.
Right?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm okay. I miss you guys. Dr. Ray, how was
Likewise.
right? And I'm just moving on to Dr. Ray.
Yeah, shut up, Dr. Foz.
Yeah. I miss you guys. I really miss you guys. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, just, moving along with my daily stuff, work, family, house, all the stuff.
And I know you've been attending 1-year-old birthdays. How was that?
They were lovely. I went to 2 little babies who turned 1, so they had a big celebration for their first birthday parties. And these were babies that I delivered a year ago. So their families graciously invited me to their first birthday parties, which was very lovely. And because I basically live by myself and have no social life whatsoever, I took them up on their offer. Because I was like, well, at least I'll, have a reason to get dressed and go have a nice dinner. And so, went to the little parties and they were quite lovely, like really nice. Brought me back to, when my children were young and watching all these young little families just sort of starting out and everything. And I'm sort of at the tail end of all of that. So it was a good time. Very fun.
Well,
you're really nice.
Yeah, your children, are like 20 years, fast forward. Do you feel like, oof, thank God I'm no longer part of that, or do you miss it?
I mean, in a little bit, because, the moms are kind of chasing after the kids and, some of the kids are throwing little fits and whatnot. But I think for the most part, I missed it. I missed when they were little like that. They were just so happy and playful and, they always wanted to come back and find mommy and sit in mommy's lap or give mommy a hug or only mommy can, pour their milk or whatever it is. So I do miss that like need for me to do everything. My kids don't need me now. And even when I offer to do something like, oh, let me make you breakfast. They're like, no, I can make it myself. I'm like, okay, do you want me to go with you to the grocery store? And I can go by myself. So they're in a different phase of their life. So they don't need their mom to come with them at every point. But this is what I spent 20 plus years trying to teach them, teach them, okay, you have to figure out how to go to the grocery store yourself. This is how you look for the groceries. This is how you buy the fruit. This is how you, pay for it. So I've spent that time teaching them and now, they've done what I've taught them and, but it's sad.
Now, these like baby birthday parties, like how's the food like?
So the first one I went to was an Indian party.
Wait a minute, Dr. Foz, why are you laughing?
It's a sort of a funny question.
You gotta be curious. What's the food like? Has it improved? Has it changed?
No, I mean, food was the best part of everything, so it always is. So, and then that's part of the enticement of me going. So the first one was an Indian party. So I knew it was going to be full blown Indian party, Indian food, everything. And so that food, is always amazing. So amazing food. They had mango lassi, free drinks, all this stuff. So very, nice, offering of refreshments and food and everything. And the second one I went to was a traditional Chinese first birthday party. So that was lovely as well. And, the Indian party was a buffet. So obviously, there's tons of food and you just take what you want to take. The Chinese one, the way, I guess the traditional way that they do it is, everyone's seated at round tables and they have the lazy Susan in front of you and the dishes keep coming. And one of the people I was sitting there said that for the first birthday, they have to have 10 different dishes. So it was, it was barbecue spare ribs, fried chicken wings. I'm going to have to ask them, by the way, where they get the fried chicken wings, because those are some of the best ones I've had. And I know you, Camille, love your fried chicken. And
I do.
Yeah. So that was a excellent piece of, fried chicken wing. They had rice, they had noodles, they had sweet and sour pork, they had pumpkin, they had the green beans, they had the bok choy. I mean,
You remember everything.
it just kept coming, like, the table just kept spinning around and you just kept eating it. And I got sat at a table with a lot of, elder people and, they want you to eat. So even though I'm in my 50s, they were all in their 80s, so they thought I was a child to them. So they would put food in my plate, like oysters came, and I'm not a fan of oysters. And so they saw that I didn't take an oyster, and so somebody took their chopsticks and put an oyster in my plate and said, you have to eat this. And I was just like, oh. But
isn't that something I see that a lot? It doesn't matter what culture you're from. Old
right.
people like to feed younger people.
Right,
I think it's really cute.
Right, yeah. So it was just sitting there and just like food after food. And once I thought, okay, they can't bring more food out, then they kept bringing more food out and more food out. And it was just a ton of food. So the food at both events were excellent. Well worth my time going.
That is it.
Yeah, and the decorations were so cute, and it was just, it was just very beautiful.
That is impressive. And, you're talking about food, and I can hear your dog just kind of, where's my food? But wait, now I'm going to have to meet your patients, Dr. Ray. I'm going to have to befriend them, and be invited to their, the 1-year-old birthday party.
It's kind of, I think that's really, really nice. But you have to be careful too. There's and it's different, I think, for Dr. Ray because of the nature of what she does, right? It's like you've ushered their new family member into this world and, help them throughout their pregnancy. And it just, I think in some cultures too, it gives you like a very, very special place in their family,
Yeah.
But it's also like I have a patient recently who's like super cool and, really nice and has really given me the honor of, trying to pay attention to what I'm saying, and she's like, oh, come hang out with us. Like, come have tea with me and I'll buy you dinner or something. I mean, it's very nice, but like, I can't do that. It gets weird. Sometimes you have to be like, I can't, this crosses a professional boundary here.
I think I failed to mention though, I probably have a little bit of a background connection to them as well. So I probably wouldn't go to a patient's party who was like just strictly my patient and I didn't have anything outside the office connection with them. So the Indian family, I think we have like family friends in common. We kind of know some of the same people type of thing, but they were having the party at a hall that my family relative owns, and they know that I'm a relative of that person. And I think because we're of the same cultural background and religion, and that's why I think that they invited me. I think if I was not that cultural background or have a little, behind the scenes connections, then I probably would not have been invited. And then with the Chinese couple, they're currently pregnant again. So she's coming into the office again for baby number 2. And they happen to live, in my neighborhood. And so maybe about 8 months ago, I saw them walking and I was like, oh my God, there's my patients. And so I pulled over and was like, you guys live around here? And so I think that I sort of have a like kind of behind the scene connection with both.
Yeah, like an outside the office.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably a little bit more why, because otherwise I agree, Dr. Foz, that if it was just a patient coming to me and they invited me, then, maybe I would be a little bit hesitant. But then also, again, to be quite honest with you, like I'm in a very different phase of my life. I'm in a much, I don't want to use the word lonely because I don't think I'm lonely, but I'm in a much more quieter social scene period of my of life right now. So I don't have too many things going on socially. And so if I were to get invited to something, I think I would probably take them up on it because I don't have a lot of stuff going on right now. If this was maybe when my kids were smaller or when they were in high school and they had soccer and, volleyball and all this stuff on weekends, I probably would have politely declined. But now, I feel I'm older, I have the time. And so it's like, oh, sure, I'll come. That's lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to the listeners of this podcast, just email us at questions@betweendoctorsandfriends.com if you want to invite Dr. Ray to your 1-year-old kid's birthday party.
Yes, but not even just that. If you want to invite me anywhere, if you want to invite me,
This is
when I think about it,
now.
I mean,
I'm really
think about it. Like 1-year-old birthday parties are actually pretty grand. I mean,
they are, especially
Yes.
I think for certain cultures. So that's why I kind of knew that they would be quite an experience. It wasn't like honestly, if it was like a birthday in their backyard or in a park, I probably would have been like, I don't know, what am I going to do there? But because I knew that they were renting out, halls and hotels, and I knew that they were, going to be a little bit more extravagant, I kind of went for the show part of it, and then with a lot of people, like the Indian party, they had like 400 people there, and the Chinese party probably had at least 100. And so
I don't even know 400 people.
Yeah, so I could blend in,
Wow.
but if it was like a backyard party, I think I probably would have hesitated even in my empty nester loneliness phase. I probably would have been like, I don't know if I want to go hang out in somebody's backyard that I don't really know any of these people. So it was just different circumstances that happened, 1 week apart.
I think
Well, also, I think it's different too. Once again, the role that you have as a physician in their lives, it's like ushering their child into the world, I think has a different
Yeah. And like, they
a limited role in some ways, you know what I mean?
Right, and they introduced me,
talk about their toe or whatever.
Yeah, they introduced me to everyone as the doctor that delivered the baby. And so like, especially when I was sitting at that Chinese table with all the elderlies, they were all like fascinated that I was the doctor. And then they kept putting food on my plate. They kept filling my glass of wine, and they kept saying, no, well, have the doctor eat, and they brought like some cake dish. And then they were like, okay, let the doctor have first. And I'm like, oh my God, you people, like, I am not anybody.
I think we need to give you like
QR code of respect.
Yeah, I think not, I'm just like, you guys are all like, 70, 80 plus. You guys please eat what you need to eat. I obviously have eaten enough in my life, and I'm not starving for food, so I do not need to be piled on the food. But they literally piled on my plate. And then when my plate was so funny, my plate had, because that fried chicken was good, so I had like, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 wings, like, the bones, and I had some of the short rib bones like in there. And so one of the elderly women sitting next to me asked the waiter, she goes, can you bring the doctor a clean plate? I was like, you don't have to bring me a clean plate.
That's how it
This is so embarrassing. I
They
know,
were taking good care of you.
They did. They took very good care of me. I ate a lot. I drank a lot.
So sweet.
And when my wine glass was empty, like they called people over to fill my glass. I'm like, I don't drink a lot of wine, so I'm already at 3 glasses. I don't need to drink more than 3 glasses of wine.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need to invite them to this pot.
Yeah, because, because they kept filling it. And I was like, that's
wow.
enough, but it was very nice because they were very doting on me. So I did feel kind of special, and I did feel like, like this is a nice, happy occasion. Because again, I would have just been sitting at home watching Netflix by myself if I didn't go. So it was nice. It was happy. It was a beautiful event, well decorated, so, and the babies are all so cute. So you can't.
All right. They get a 10. Wait, we had a hand raised over
such
here.
A respectful, such a respectful family too.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I just wanted to add to it, Dr. Ray. Remember when you all tried to say, "Oh, we're doctors, we just put on our pants like everyone else," and I said, "No, you're not putting on pants, you're putting on scrubs." So get the doctor a clean plate, give her more wine, give her more food. Yes.
Okay.
I swear to God, because I get kicked in the teeth every single day. So thanks for even thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Dr. Ray, you need to invite them to this podcast, those 80-plus-year-olds, and then we'll have them ask Dr. Foz.
Yes.
Instead of the Dr. Foz for some,
I'll be like, I don't know, but you better slow down on the chicken wings and wine.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's all they talk
But
about.
it was good. I'm telling you that I'm going to have to find out where they order those chicken wings. And next time we all get together, we're going to have to get them. So they said somewhere in San Gabriel Valley, but I don't know where that is or what restaurant. They didn't name the restaurant.
I'm going to have to you're going to have to make a list of your patients, like their first child and then their first birthday party. That's kind of, that can be the new scene. Because, remember, my nephew, they brought in like food trucks. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So what happens when you get to the third child?
Who cares, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who cares?
No, then it's the backyard birthday party.
Yeah, well, we have another, I don't know if we have another hand raised here. Go ahead, Moderna.
Oh no, that was a mistake, child. You know, I be hitting the wrong button when I be trying to react.
Well, Moderna's been chatting over here.
Got too excited.
He needs some, wealthy friends with, I guess, celebrating their kid's first birthday party as well. That could be.
Oh yes, because the first birthday party is always for the adults. It's never for the actual child. I mean, what are they going to remember?
Right?
Like, you ain't going to remember nothing. So yes, I would love to go to the wealthy first birthday parties. All you can eat. What do you need? 10-course meal, fried
chicken.
I mean, honestly, like, that's part of the reason why I went, because, like, when they sent the invitation and I saw, like, where it's going to be, and then, I'm, like, thinking, okay, these people are wealthy, and I think this is going to be quite an extravagant event, and probably with great food, great wine, and everything. So,
Watch. Their second kid doesn't get that kind of party.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Who cares?
I think that's so nice. I really do that they thought so much of you.
I'm very touched. I'm very touched. I was very touched that they invited me and everything. And so, and like I said, I'm in the phase of life that I could do it. Like if my kids, like if I had a 2 and 3 year old or, junior high school, I probably would have been like, look, my weekends are packed with kid stuff. I can't go to anything, but I'm just different phase of life right now.
That sounds way better than attending a wedding. I mean, especially for us, like, single, no kids. Just, I am gonna have to start.
Well, and also the gift is cheaper. Like a gift for a 1-year-old doesn't cost a lot of money.
Exactly. I don't remember. Yeah, you're so right. Oh my gosh, we just, I think, discovered something here that those wedding websites, forget that. Just go to the...
Instead of wedding crashers. First baby crashers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, my gosh. Okay. Dr. Ray, thank you for opening our eyes to that. What age range are you seeing women, give birth, like their first baby these days, this decade?
Oh, I mean, it varies, but I think the teen birth rate is dropping and the late 30s, 40s birth rate is going higher. But I would say majority of my patients are probably 20s and 30s.
Like late 20s or, that's very different.
Early 20s.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, all over the place.
I mean, I just had a 17-year-old. I know I have 2 18-year-olds. I have a lot of girls who are like, 23, 24 on baby number 3 or 4. So it's all over. And then, I'll have the 40-year-old come in with her first pregnancy. So it's all over. Everybody has different timelines. Everybody has different family values and, different life paths.
Are you seeing an increase for like late 30s, early 40s?
Demographic is seeing an increase all over. Yeah.
I was with a Gen Z last week, and she's in her like early 30s, married. So I asked her about the baby thing, and she's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna wait. A lot of me and my peers, are kind of like more interested in waiting until like our late 30s, and I kind of warned her that I'm just gonna tell you, when you hit 35, your OB-GYN's gonna scare you. You will get the
no. Well, I mean, because I did that before they got to her.
There you go.
I mean, the overall birth rate across the country and many other countries is dropping. So many people are not either electing to not have children or having fewer children. Instead of having maybe the 4 children that their parents did, they're only having their 2 children. Or a lot of them are having just 1 child. So there's a rise in the only child demographic as well. So yeah, there's a lot of, I remember just seeing some of the politics stuff and everything. They're trying to, I think part of all the stuff that these male white politicians are doing is trying to increase the birth rate. And so you'll see a lot of them talking about that, increasing the birth rate, and probably a lot of the, incentives that they're doing, are trying to increase that as well.
Yeah.
Life is very hard now for everyone. I think, unless honestly you're in the top 1% or maybe top 5%, life is very hard for everybody. The gas prices are ridiculous. The grocery prices are ridiculous. Eating out now, I sometimes will take, maybe once a week, I'll go have lunch by myself somewhere just to escape everything that's going on in my life. And I used to get away with lunch, anywhere between $10 and $15 for everything. Mm-hmm. And now it's $20 to $25. And that's just, like maybe like a cheeseburger, fries, and a drink, mm-hmm. And then add the tip, and it's coming out $25. And that's a lot. It's a lot to go out to eat. It's a lot to go out to do stuff. Like, I even told my kids, like, when we go out to eat, I was like, you guys, start getting just water, because these beverages now, they're charging like $5 for, a glass of Coke. And that's absolutely ridiculous now. So I'm just like, if you guys are going out with your friends or we're going out together, just get a glass of water and drink your water. You don't need to do any of that. And I'm hearing the kids too, like with alcohol and cocktails, like they're drinking at home before they go to the restaurant, and not drinking at the restaurant and then drinking afterwards, because the cocktails are almost $20 for a cocktail.
Yeah. We had a staff member depart recently, and there was that everybody got together after work, as for goodbye drinks, that kind of stuff, and single shots were almost $20.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry, 20 American dollars?
Yeah.
No, $18 a shot. I was like, for a shot? Like, it's not even a mixed drink, it's just a shot. You've got to be kidding me.
No. I remember once upon a time when $100 bill could buy about 30 shots.
Well, wait, that was 30 shots for one person.
I think it was
her name is Dr. Ray.
Hold on. Oh. Go ahead.
I was saying how I remember when $100 bill could sustain you through a whole weekend of partying and going out of town. It was amazing.
Hello.
Gas, food, whatever.
Yeah.
Party, club. Oh my God. It's so sad. Oh, I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
So go on, Dr. Ray.
But no, so I'm just saying that life is very hard, and I think people are realizing that. And I think once they've had one child and they realize how expensive the one child is, and how expensive childcare is, and how expensive all the stuff that the child needs, they're thinking they're either going to do this just one more time, or they're going to do it no more times, and then that's it. And some people, I think, who have gotten very comfortable in their life and maybe have not found a partner till, mid-30s or so, are really considering should we, even have children? Because are we going to be able to do the things that we want to do? Are we going to be able to travel the way that we want to travel? Are we going to be able to retire early? Are we going to be able to do all the things that we want to do? Because once you get a child, these childs probably over the course of your life probably cost $1 million each.
What's the average cost? Just kind of like ballpark of, giving birth, being pregnant here in America.
Well, you mean like
where I am in the West Coast? I'm in the West Coast.
Are you talking for like medical care?
Yeah, like a woman. Oh, I found out. Like I'm pregnant. Like.
If you have no insurance, it's probably about $40,000 to $50,000, I would think.
Wow.
Yeah, because all the medical care, and then the delivery in the hospital, and post care and baby care.
I often see people who are pregnant but don't have insurance. I know that sounds, but because in a lot of states, if you're pregnant, just by being pregnant qualifies you for like emergency medical.
Yeah, most people will get the emergency Medicaid. So once they're pregnant, they can go apply for Medicaid, and their majority are covered. So we very rarely see pregnant women not pay anything, you know. My hospital before COVID, we did have an influx of the Chinese birth tourism. And so they did come and they paid cash. But the hospital worked out deals with them. So it wasn't, you know, that expensive. So I want to say, I think maybe $15,000 to $20,000 that the Chinese birth tourists paid to have their baby here.
Wow. Buy a car or have a baby.
You can buy a car with $20,000.
I'm about a car every time.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about, you know, expense and having a child. I'm just going to, what is the typical cost of med school these days?
$400,000.
$400,000 for how many years?
4 years.
So
I have
$100,000
no
a
idea
year?
because I don't pay attention. After I left, I did not care.
Yeah. Average doctors are coming out with about $400,000 in loans from med school.
Wow. And then, you know, go on.
For med school, you have to remember that depending on where you go and where you're from or where you live, like it's not just your tuition costs, it's your living expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
So you still have to, like, if you have to move across country, let's say you have to rent an apartment, you have to figure out your transportation, you have to be able to feed yourself. Like, you know, you still have your bills, it's your electricity and, you know,
your
all that
Netflix
stuff.
bill.
Like all those things that you have to pay, you know, so it's not, depends on where you go. A lot of it'll be cheaper if you go to like a state funded school versus like a private university, and, you know, and where you live, like where you might go. Like living expenses, I'm sure, in New York City and Los Angeles and, you know, places like San Francisco are going to be a lot more than if you were to go to school maybe somewhere in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a hand raised here. Moderna, go on.
Yeah, I got a question. But first, if my doctor got time to watch Netflix and pay for that subscription while they're studying for their degree, throw them away and don't have them see me. Because I study the book. Watch some books, baby. You ain't got enough time for Netflix. Netflix is going to lay you low and you will not pass. Absolutely not. You watch all the Netflix when you've gotten that degree, okay?
Okay,
you know what?
Can I say something about that?
Go on.
I'm done with all that. I still keep up with all my CME. I try to be on the edge of things. I try to know what I'm doing. I still ain't got time for Netflix.
Girl, really? Even now?
But that's terrifying. I will go my entire life and not really have time for Netflix. Let that sink in.
Oh my goodness.
That's how
See,
bad
I would have
it
thought
is.
that after the degree, you'd been like, okay, now I'm easy breezy. I could, you know, shoot some shit and watch some Netflix. But, ooh, child, okay. All right. Well,
but I will defend these students. Medical school is incredibly emotionally draining, and they require you sometimes, like when you're on rotations, to be there at like 5 a.m. and then you're following the doctors around all day, working with the interns, doing everything. Maybe they'll let you go home at like 8 p.m. You know,
and they're yelling at you.
And it's a hard day. It's a hard, long day. And then you have to go home at 8 p.m. and then you have to read and study, you know, to prepare for the next day. So maybe it's like midnight. Mm-hmm. So, you know, watching a little Netflix when you have a little bit of time, just, you know, being, you know, relaxing a little bit. It's not taking away from their studies. Wow. You know, they're not on it all the time. There's no way they can be on it all the time. It's just, your brain can't be functioning all the time. You can't be constantly learning and reading and doing everything every minute that you're awake. You need some time where you're just staring and not thinking about anything and watching some ridiculousness.
Some trash.
So, like, so my show, so I, you know, we trained before there was streaming services or anything like that. I think, you know, maybe, I don't even think we had DVDs or CDs. I think it was, you know,
all right,
VHSs,
yeah.
right?
Okay, hold on.
Okay,
back that up. Okay,
but my show every week was Sex in the City, and no matter how hard I was working and studying and everything, I had to take like just that time to just sit there and watch some mind-numbing, asinine show about, you know, such, immaterial material things that I just needed that brain to just stop working than watch something.
Yeah, let me share a little.
Sex and the City was life educating. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
How to live like a New York girlie.
Let me share you something a little about Dr. Ray is that she would go clubbing with us and go and return back to the campus, and maybe we'd get back like 3-4 a.m. and guess what, 6 a.m. she gets up and on a Saturday and she is at the library studying while we're
Period,
still all
Dr. Ray.
Yeah.
Period. And you know what, Dr. Ray?
Crazy.
I'm an engineer. I was the same way.
Yeah.
The way I would hit them house parties and be out till 2:30 in the morning, and by 7 a.m. I am up in them books learning about thermodynamics and physics, baby. I was doing it, okay?
You had to do that. So
exactly.
it was a work hard, play hard type of environment.
That
and you
part.
made every hour yours.
Count.
And so
you literally made it count. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
but I did have one question.
Yeah, for these students today, a little bit of, let's give them a little bit of grace. A little bit of Netflix every now and then is not going to make them any less of a doctor.
Yes. For the doctoral students out there, y'all go ahead and get that shared password. And, use the VPN to fake the address so that way you don't have to pay for it. But decompress with your good Netflix. No chill, though. Don't be doing no chills. I need you focused on the book.
Well, that's also what's not recognized in this whole thing. It isn't just academically vigorous, right? It's not just that. It's also emotionally taxing. You have people croaking on you, like right in front of you. You're like stuck in these situations where you see people who are coming in the door mangled, or you have to break terrible news to them, or you see their family members like crying in hysteria. And, you see little kids that are sick, and there's all these things that are about it. And then that's just the emotionally taxing part of it, like being the caregiver. Like as medical students, and then you move up into internship and residency and stuff, shit rolls downhill. And so you get, abused, harassed, I think there's movements towards that's not quite as acceptable, but I mean, it can be openly hostile. I have been victim of sexual harassment that would have never flown, post.
Oh wow.
Hashtag Me Too. What had happened to me would have gone to litigation in more modern times. And so, yes, you absolutely do need to give those poor medical students. I'm hoping that it's not like that for them anymore, and that they have an opportunity to, be human as well, because that will protect their health, their mental health, and allow them to thrive. And I want them to be good at what they do because I need them to take care of me when I'm old.
Dr. Foss, walk us through to become a doctor. So you take your undergrad, and then what happens?
So medical school has, depending on where you go to school, and I can only speak in the United States, right? There's certain requirements that you have to meet. Like you have to have had X amount of chemistry, X amount of physics, X amount of math, like X amount of whatever. So you have your prerequisites in terms of like completing that basic science knowledge. And it does vary between schools. Like where I had gone had some additional requirements in terms of advanced chemistry, but since I liked those classes anyway, it wasn't like a big deal. Not all, I know. And then notice I didn't say calculus in those things. There was no linear algebra that I had to worry about that much. So then then you have to take a test called the MCAT, and that's like an admissions test. Okay. And then, so there's that's a test of basic, science knowledge that you gather in your university years. Some medical schools require a degree. So where I went to school, I had to have a bachelor's degree. Some do not. As long as you have completed your prerequisites and have met their requirements, then you may enter. Okay, I see those shocked little faces. So they don't, that doesn't mean like you can just be 20 years old and be done with that. I mean, a lot of the prerequisites are years and years of university. So it's not like you can just go in and be done. And then you are selected for admission based on your application, and they'll want like interviews and all kinds of stuff like that. And, it's just like going to university. Like they'll look at what you do in terms of like, did you do anything extracurricular and where do you stand in your academics? And so that's basically kind of how it is.
Yeah. Just to interject, we actually know someone who only completed 3 years of college and then applied to medical school and got accepted without the bachelor's degree. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All
you
right.
know her. You know her.
I do.
You do. Yeah, we went to college with her.
Oh. All right, we'll talk about that later. You'll have to remind me who she is.
I'll
it's not me.
Now.
It's not me because I did have to finish my bachelor's.
You had a bad experience at her wedding.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I want to transition here. This is kind of. Oh, go on, Moderna.
Oh, yeah, I have one last question.
Yeah.
So y'all were talking about the cost of med school being the $400,000 or whatever, but I'm ignorant to med school stuff. I will be the first person to admit that I'm very ignorant. But when I went for my doctorate in engineering, I was able to get like scholarships and like funding and all that good stuff, research assistantships and all that stuff. So I don't, is it the same for medical school? Like, do med school students actually end up getting scholarships or research assistantships?
They can, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they can do that, yeah.
Is there like a program where, the government helps you, and in exchange, when you become a doctor, you have to work X amount of years?
Yep. There's loan forgiveness programs with that you can do after school. So like you can agree to work in underserved areas for X amount of years and they'll pay back X amount of your student loans while you're also working, making your salary or whatever. Those are, it's just agreements to help bring physicians to areas that need medical services. And then also some people do the military.
Okay. Well, so before we transition to kind of another topic here, but related, so Dr. Foss, Dr. Ray, what can you tell like young people, in high school or maybe early college who want to pursue to be a doctor, but maybe, don't have the means or kind of, their fears?
Well, it's expensive, but I mean, it isn't unreasonable when you look at schools that you're looking to you don't have to go to the most expensive private university to have a great education.
Yeah, there are plenty of state medical schools and different locations that can maybe be a little bit more reasonably priced. I went to a state med school, and I took out loans, but it was very reasonably priced loans. Dr. Foz went to a pricey, uppity private school.
Uppity.
And ended up with a lot more loans. Uppity, spoiled children, uppity, and they, no rivalry, nothing. I'm not jealous, nothing like that. Ended up with, I don't even know how much, 2 times, 3 times my loan, something like that. So
probably,
yeah, you can make choices and decisions, go to a state undergrad, you don't need to go to, an expensive out of state school. There are plenty of doctors who have taken the path where they've gone to community college for 2 years, saved that money, gone to finish off their degree at a 4-year university, at a state university, and then gone to a state medical school. So you can do it for, potentially less. And a lot of people take time off in between college and med school and work and save that money, move back home, get a job for a little while, save some money. Once you have, 40, 50,000, whatever saved up, then you can go to med school, take out loans for the tuition, but then, use your money to pay your living expenses. You don't need to live in the fanciest apartment and you don't need to DoorDash all the time. You need to be put on a budget. And a lot of people nowadays, especially these young, Gen Zers or whatever, have a hard time with budget and they just want convenience. My Daughter is one of them, sitting at home, and she, DoorDashes some food, and I'm like, why can't you get off your lazy ass and go get it? It's only like a 5-minute drive, and now what? You paid $10 extra for the DoorDash to come to you when you could have gone and got it. You have to think like this, and that. All right, fine, it's one time, maybe you do once a month, pay for it, the convenience. But these kids are DoorDashing, to their dorm rooms almost on a daily basis. So anyway, that's another topic. So anyway, so you can be frugal and you can go to med school and you can do it. So if your goal is to go to med school, but you're worried about the cost, there is a way you can do it. You just need to have the mindset for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. And, there are scholarship opportunities out there. You have to look into that, and kind of have a plan, and there isn't, I'm going to say it, I don't think there's a medical school in the United States that I think is like crappy. Does that make any sense? I don't know how you feel about
that's
that.
pretty.
Right? I mean, it's not like
that feels like a bold statement.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are some that are better than others, but I do think, like, I mean, if you
match into a residency, I can't. I mean, I'll tell you, like, I have maybe 1 out of 100 patients ask me where I went to med school. So even if you go to, I don't know, some little state school in the middle of nowhere and, or a little private med school in the middle of nowhere and no one's ever even heard of it, people aren't.
These are accredited, there isn't a med school in the United States that's not accredited. So because they have to meet standards, to meet training standards, to meet certifications for boards. So it's like there's these large levels of supervision, if that makes any sense. And so there isn't a crappy school. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are better than others, but if you went to med school in the United States, then you got a brain, you're fine, and then a lot of times it's like luck of the draw,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, you know what? That's not the only thing that determines, what kind of physician you are. And I've seen doctors that have come out of really great schools and they're not very good at what they do. So, it's not just that.
So it's the person, not the school. And I think this is a, great message in time for all these graduations that's happening right now. So, I wanted to transition, speaking of everything that we talked about. I want to bring up this lady named Cheyenne Bryant. Auntie, you want to say something about this whole... and we'll
absolutely. And Moon, please feel free to jump in as well, because she and I have been talking about this offline as well. But, so long story short, there's someone who goes by the name of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And that's really important to note. The doctor is important to note because her credentials have been called into question. What has caused them into question was the fact that she was publicly giving out advice that, a lot of therapists seemed to go against, they felt that it went against their teachings. So they were like pretty much saying, girl, show your credentials. Where's your degree? Like, and her excuse was, well, my school closed down and I wasn't able to, obtain it and I was busy. But, I just gave you the short version of everything. But she just recently, and what you're seeing on the screen now is her defending, her not having to show her medical degree. So there was a clip, she was talking on a podcast recently. And, a lot of videos have been released, afterwards, pretty much saying, okay, yeah, this is not matching up. I don't think she is a credible doctor.
So I'll play a little bit of video and then we can talk about it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is not to be a killjoy here.
Yeah.
Anybody can call themselves doctor. I mean, look at Dr. Dre, right? Pretty sure he didn't go to med school either. Just saying. And then the other issue is I think her thing, from the little clip that I took a look at, I think she's a PhD, not an MD doctor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a little different. That I can't really comment on, but I mean, anybody who has a degree should be able to produce evidence of that degree.
I mean, where's your diploma? Everybody has their diploma hanging on their wall or on the wall of their
Actually, I don't. I don't know where my diploma actually is.
Oh, period. The level of passion behind this. Oh, we about to get in.
Lord. I mean...
But you're saying everything everybody else is saying.
Yeah.
If you work to get a PhD...
You should have a picture of it. Where's your picture of your graduation? Put a picture of you at your graduation.
Dr. Ray, that is what everyone is saying. Like, I'm sorry. If you can't even do the bare minimum, then you're lying.
If someone asked me, I could produce all my stuff in a minute. They're hanging on the wall right behind me.
There you go.
Well, the thing is,
Should we
at
watch
least for us,
clip?
like credentials go deep. Like if I can't cough up my diploma, you can contact the universities that I went to. They'll tell you. There's like state medical boards that have information on me. Like there's like these huge paper trails for physicians because of consumer protections, right?
But I mean, maybe not with a PhD.
PhD is different.
Yes, but where I don't. Okay.
But they should be able to produce credentials. I mean, if you're applying for a job and you say, "Oh, I have a PhD in, chemistry or something," okay, and you're going to be an industrial chemist. Okay, let's see that degree. You have to cough it up at some point.
Yeah. Let's play the clip, and thank you to TMZ and AT&T, who are not sponsors of this show, but they are sponsors of the content we are playing.
Well, the questions that are out there, why not provide the proof of your degree? Why not?
Well, a couple of things, right? I have multiple degrees, and my thing is that my proof isn't something that I have to prove to individuals. My proof is already within my credentials, my degrees, and also more than just my titles, it's in how effective I've been. Mm-hmm. All of my sessions have been live. For the most part, my sessions with Nick Cannon, Cam Newton, Shannon Sharp, B. Simone, they have all been for the world to see. Right? So no one knew who Dr. Bryant was prior to seeing all of my sessions that were live. And they deemed it, as well as I did before they did it, they can't validate me, I validated myself, they deemed it as my work being effective. I'm effective at what I do. I'm educated and I'm successful in my lane, and I'll land on this. I created my own lane. And so a lot of times, Marissa, when people say that you created something that maybe they couldn't, admiration turns into envy. And you got to be okay. And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, and I've gotten this question from many viewers, and I owe it to them. You do.
Absolutely.
Why not
answer the question?
Doctor from your name if you cannot bring forth the doctoral degree?
So I've already covered this, right? And we're here obviously to talk about my new book. So I've earned the title. I have multiple degrees, and I'm not going to prove anything to anybody. And we're going to leave it just as that. Yeah.
Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
Baby, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
And that's what, and you're standing by that.
Standing by it. Yeah, right. Because I earned it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I know you're going to hang around. And
I want to thank you for asking the hard question.
Well,
all right.
No. I mean,
Dr. Pepper doesn't have any credentials either, but they're Dr. Pepper.
I mean, why be she's so evasive about it. Like,
she's
if
very
you have it, then
she's
show it. Why?
And
it's like when Obama, everyone said Obama wasn't born in Hawaii, and he's like, here, assholes, here's my birth certificate. Like, why be so evasive about it?
Because she don't have it.
Right.
And this is
also
how you answer questions like that. You start off, you basically just start talking about something else, like, let's get off the topic. And
then you just
I
start
stand
saying,
by this and whatever.
I don't have to prove it to anyone. I know it. I don't have to prove it to anyone. And that's it.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely doesn't have it. I mean, if you I'm sorry, to get a PhD, it's like 3 to 5 years. You would be very proud of that PhD, and you would
100%.
show it off and tell people that that's what you have. And like I said, most people have it displayed in their professional offices, or they, somewhere their parents probably have it or something.
So, Auntie, is she in the mental health field? Is this what this is about?
She is indeed, yes.
Okay, so that's like people saying that they're like, there's a difference between like a nutritionist and like a registered dietitian. It's like anybody can be a nutritionist, but a registered dietitian went to school and has a degree as a registered dietitian. So maybe it's one of those kind of things, and anybody can call themselves doctor. It doesn't, but
she's supposed to. Technically, I think she should be a life coach, which she says she does, because she doesn't have a licensure. So, which makes me think she doesn't even have her master's degree, which she says she does. She says she has multiple degrees, but from what I gather, what I gather from everyone who has got a PhD, they still talk to people on their panel who did all the review. They have their dissertation at reach, almost, if not on their phone. They have pictures. They have the diploma. They have all of these things to provide at a moment's notice because, one, they're proud. Two, they don't play about it because it's such hard work and they had so much trauma around it that, yes, you're going to see this. So for her to be so evasive about it further lets me know that really she's just a scammer who wants to hold herself at a higher standard, which I think no one would have had a problem if she came out and said, I'm the baddest, most whatever life coach on this side of, the West Coast or whatever. And people would have been like, fine, that's okay, do what you do. But she also said she didn't want to hold a licensure because, she didn't want to be bound by basically the ethics committee or ethics of
we don't want you to be bound by ethics or anything like that.
Yeah. So that was also another red flag. Like, come on, lady. And so it's just. So
is she? Before this controversy happened, was she like famous and well respected?
No. She came out on one particular podcast. I think she came out on Cam Newton. He was a quarterback football player. She came on his
Panthers, for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and she came out on his podcast, and then she went to Shannon Sharp, who was another football player's podcast, and then this other girl she named Nick Cannon. Oh, Nick Cannon was also another one, and she got a lot of traction behind that, and people became interested because she did make valid points on these people. Like, she did make valid points, but then when she kept being out there, some things that she was saying were a little questionable to people who actually work in the mental health field. Like, hey. Like, if you got a license, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like, what you said is pretty harmful. Like, wait, whoa. And then we've headed down this rabbit hole of like, well, it doesn't seem like you really have a doctorate or, she's one of those people
that
wear.
And I can attest, Moon. Mm-hmm. You ain't lying because even though I don't have a PhD, I was a doctoral student at one point in my career. And along the way, I got my master's degree. And that university gave me a small laminated card that shows my degree on top of like the actual diploma that's in a frame and definitely is in my house invisible for people to know that I'm an educated bitch. But I have a small laminated degree. And that one stays in my wallet because I dare someone ever try to question if I graduated from this institution when I'm out in public. I will most certainly pull out that laminated degree and be like, now read and try again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think, and maybe I'm going to be wrong, but I don't know what kind of background she comes from, but I'm sure her family would have been incredibly proud to have had a child.
You better wake that up, Dr. Ray.
I'm sure that they would have copies of her diplomas or whatnot. And, I assume you can go and find that from her parents' house. They should have that or something.
Or
her grandma would answer the door and say, "Oh yes, she went to this school."
I was at that first birthday party and I had all those elderly people around me. If I gave them a copy of my diploma, I'm sure they'd put it all up in their houses and be like,
probably
strangers.
Yeah.
People of color, of cultural outside of Caucasian.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Outside, we celebrate education to the highest of levels. Like, family don't play about that. If you're the first person, if you're the 10th person, they're happy.
Right. I would think her mama would be having a big picture of her in the house saying, there's my daughter in her PhD regalia, and that's her thing. I mean, I would do that for my child.
Totally. And the thing, though, to remember is, notice she's really evasive. And, like I said, that's when you don't have the answers to the question, you just deflect it. Mm-hmm. But any publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad publicity. So look at us on this little weekly friend get-together that we have. We're talking about this person that I don't even know.
So I think it may harm her bottom line in the future, which I'm okay.
Yeah. And you don't even need to know her because she ain't no doctor.
Yeah. So as doctors, how do you feel about things like this when these happen?
Well, this has happened in the medical community too, where they find out, people aren't doctors all the time. They find out surgeons who did surgery down in Florida for years all of a sudden aren't doctors at all. They came from whatever country they came and said that they got their degrees in that country and whatnot. So this happens all the time. People are fraud in every level of education.
Wait. I don't think there's. I think there's fraud in every level, but I don't think there's like all the time. There's people who are operating on other people.
No. I'm not saying all the time.
That's not common.
I mean, this has happened before. So this happens and has happened in the medical community. But it's very simple to just put this down and just be like, here's my credentials and that's it. Move on. Mm-hmm. So it's very suspicious, and I'm going to vote that she probably just has at minimum a bachelor's degree and is trying to tout herself as something more.
The thing that's different though for physicians or dentists or even licensed social workers, optometrists, veterinarians, like anybody in the medical fields is usually in most states that you live on, because you deal with the public and make decisions with them, it falls under the Department of Consumer Affairs and Consumer Protection. And so we in the medical field can't, nurses even, like you can't just come out and say, oh, I have a nursing degree, and then you're all of a sudden a nurse, and even though you never were, and then that's what happens. Like, when I went to medical school, I went to an accredited university, for that. And then when I went to residency, residencies are also accredited, and there's communication between the residency and my school. And then when I'm up for licensure, there's part of me getting my license required a lot of paperwork to be done by my residency program. It wasn't just me filling out an application and hoping for the best. There's all these things that have to happen. And so I guess I would want everybody to know is in the medical professions and the helping professions that deal with the public, because of the Department of Consumer Affairs that are involved, there's a lot less danger for this. Now, PhDs, you can get a PhD in whatever topic, if you're a PhD, like I said, in some degree in psychology or one of the harder sciences or in mathematics or something, you're not necessarily providing services to the public. And so there isn't that level of scrutiny, if that makes any sense. The Department of Consumer Affairs is not involved.
That's interesting. Moderna, you have your...
Yes. Okay. So y'all are bringing up such good points, and I have two things to address. Well, three. Dr. Ray, you are spot on, honey, because when we went to this lady website, she only claimed in her About Us that she actually got her degree from Cal State Northridge as undergraduate degrees, which is what you had, so accurately predicted, because you are an actual doctor, so you understand. Unlike her, everything else she mentioned that she was pursuing things or all the other things. And then the other thing you were saying, Dr. Paz, is you're right. You could get a PhD in, some specialized field, but if it's not consumer facing or you're not affecting the public in any way, then it might not necessarily involve, the legalities of the state boards and all that other stuff, right? Because
it doesn't involve the public. It's
exactly.
That's interesting. Good to know.
Exactly. Because you could get a PhD in engineering, but if you're not actually signing paperwork or signing off on documents that affect the public, then you don't necessarily need a license, or something like that.
Right. You don't need to be vetted so much, Well, and that's, and I think that's where a lot of fraud does probably happen, is because it doesn't involve, these more, like I said, there's all these handshakes that happen, the communications between things. So that's probably where things fall between the cracks. And that's unfortunate. I wish, once again, any publicity, even bad publicity, is still publicity. Because if she's selling a book, here we are talking about her, and there she was on a show, and so she may not have credentials, but everybody's talking about her.
That book is definitely going to get purchased, right? But
right, so don't talk about her, because then she'll go away.
Well, people are returning the book.
Okay. Yeah. But speaking of the fraud, though, because y'all are bringing up a good point, it can happen. What is the best way for, consumers or patients like me to understand whether or not my doctor does actually have their credentials, because I think it was Dr. Ray that said it earlier. It was like, hey, most people aren't asking their doctor, like, where you get your degree from when they're coming into the office. Now, I know me personally, I'll look them up to see, like, okay, where they got their degree from. But everybody don't always
different.
Google,
Yeah, everybody's different. So, like, I've had patients, like, I had somebody come in once and, like, basically read me my resume back, and I was, like,
wow,
a little scared. Like, I was a little like, are you, like, some crazy stalker? Do I have to call security? I'm like, how? Like, yeah, that's where I went to school. Yeah. And then this patient's like, okay, so let's proceed. And I was like, all right, well, I'm glad I've passed your muster. It felt kind of, it felt a little, like, a little paranoid. and then it felt a little like, oh, now you're good enough to talk to me. Then I'm like, you know what? I got tons of patients. You can hit the road, pal. Like, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to do what needs to be done. So I kind of don't care too much about that in some ways. But your doctor can be vetted. You can find out where they went to medical school. You can find out when they got their license. That's through your state medical boards. None of it's a secret.
Okay.
None of it's a secret. None of this can be hidden. So none of
if they're prescribing you medication under their name, they've already been licensed and vetted. So
right.
So so they're real.
No, but if you only want to see boards, like Ivy League educated physicians, then once again, seeing great ones out of that and not so great ones out of that, that's your business and that's your own biases. Because I've met great physicians who came out of programs that are smaller and, and all this stuff. And they're, I've met a lot of physicians that are foreign educated. Amazing physicians. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't give a damn about the Ivy Leagues and shit. If anything, I think they don't care about me, so I wouldn't be looking for them like that. No way.
So you just dropped a topic here. You come from abroad, you want to move to the U.S. and become a doctor. What do you have to do to become a doctor? Because, I'm from the Philippines, and a lot of our very good doctors in the Philippines come here and they're nurses.
Yeah.
If they have their medical degree in that foreign country, then they have to repeat a residency program here. And
so they have to go through residency. Okay.
Yeah. And once they
have to, right. You have to take, I think, a special test that's designed for foreign medical grads. And then you still have to take the medical licensure tests, the USMLE testing, which is a 3-step process. So, and then it kind of depends on getting into a residency, and that might be where some of the problems come up, because residencies are going to want a certain level of knowledge, understanding, and so you may not, and I can't say for sure, but you may not have priority in those things, Mm-hmm. And then also there's weird stuff about that, like, I don't necessarily think some of it is because the quality is so different. I mean, there's certainly even differences. So just for a little bit more background, like, there are, even in the United States, like, a lot of regional differences on, like, medical knowledge.
Really?
That are not based on poor exposure or being not educated. Like, it's just, so, like, people who practice and live in the Northeast are going to be a lot more comfortable treating and identifying Lyme disease than physicians who might be on the West Coast, where you don't really see as much of it, like somebody in, like, Seattle, for example. Not that, so there's a lot of, like, on the East, if you're from, like, Connecticut, you know how to handle Lyme disease like yesterday. Like, if you're from Seattle, you might be like, oh yeah, I remember reading about that. Like, there's regional differences in some of these things, believe it or not. There's regional practice differences in a lot of stuff in the United States, and it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just how things go there. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some of that, for training internationally, like, I think physicians who might train in places where things like dengue is a lot more prevalent, like in a lot of the tropical regions of the world, are going to be a little bit different about that than us in the United States. I'll be like, oh yeah, dengue. Oh yeah. Like, I mean, we don't see that, Mm-hmm. I mean, we do, but not to the same extent. And so you have to go through this whole process, though, so to make sure that there's, adequate. Everybody's trained to the same level. I think that in every country, like if I had it when I was in residency, I had a colleague of mine who decided to practice in Latin America. This person was not of Latin American descent, but spoke the local language fluently, just because they wanted to, and wanted to go help a population that was needed the assistance in a underserved part of that country, right? So she wasn't going to like a capital city or something. She wanted to go work out somewhere where people really needed help. But with, graduation from a great medical school and an accredited, residency with, good skills and everything, this person still had to go through the accreditation for the local country that she needed to go to. They basically put her through the same ringer.
Oh, wow.
So it's often, I think, it's just like, well, you didn't train here, so, we need to make sure that you meet these standards. And then I think people sometimes just get snotty about stuff.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure in your field, I'm in tech, so we don't really have that kind of like layered hierarchy. But in your field, it is, coming from academia to, to the field. You guys have this.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of unfortunate. And it's, I think it pigeonholes some people who don't deserve to be pigeonholed. And I think it elevates some people who don't need to be elevated or should not be elevated.
Yeah.
But then I just feel like, whenever you suppress something good, you suppress something good and whatever comes from that, and it's hard. And it's interesting too, because there's like, oh, there's such a shortage. We need primary care. Well, yeah, but nobody wants to go into primary care. So when you bring these physicians over, they also don't want to go into primary care because it's a lot of work and not a lot of pay. Don't ask me how I know.
Well, I'm going to ask a question in regards to like certification and licensing and whatever, that doctors have to go through. I'm going to ask like the differences between like a DO, GP, like all that stuff. What's the difference? Like internist, like, for us, like for primary care.
Well, a DO is a doctor of osteopathic medicine, and they've gone to a osteopathic medical school. So
what does that mean?
So from my understanding, so there's two different types of medical schools. One is basically like the MD, which is a medical doctorate degree, which are
we're called allopathic physicians.
What?
Yeah.
Say it again?
Allopathic.
Okay. Yeah. And so those are the majority of the big name schools. Harvard Med School, University of Michigan Med School, all of those big name schools are allopathic MD schools. The osteopathic route, from my understanding, is they teach them and practice more musculoskeletal treatment options. They focus more on the muscles, ligaments, joints. They learn how to do manipulations to help with certain pain issues, and they spend more time on that type of studies. So that's my rudimentary understanding. So I don't know if Dr. Foz has a better.
Dr. Foz?
I agree. There's a bit more of a focus on a few other things that are tied to like musculoskeletal issues, but it's not like their entire training is focused on that. It's just kind of like in addition. And then there is, from my understanding as well, there's a bit more of an emphasis on primary care in DO programs. Yeah. However, it is the equivalent of an MD degree.
Right.
It is not inferior in any capacity.
Right. They learn all the same science and everything that we need.
Same training, same testing, everything.
They do stuff in addition to what an MD does, and they learn more.
Right, and they can be specialists. They can be primary care physicians. Think of them as the same. It's just that because it's less common and less popular that people don't always know what it means. And a DO is not the same thing as an OD. An OD is an optometrist.
Oh. Okay.
My partner,
completely different.
My partner is a DO and does the exact same thing I do on a daily basis. Yeah.
Okay, so for patients that are looking for new doctors, like how do we
I
choose?
would say MD, DO are equivalent. You don't need
why are they different?
Because I don't know, whenever the med school started or whatever happened way back in history or something, somebody decided that, the medical training that MDs were getting were maybe different than what they wanted to teach, and they taught them more of these musculoskeletal manipulations and more of like a whole body treatment in addition to the medical science. And so they started the first DO school, and don't ask me any of that history. I don't know it, but
I don't know.
They're equivalent. They just learn and focus a little bit more on different aspects, but they are equivalent to everything. They go to the same residency programs we do. They do the same work we do. Like I said, my partner, who's in the next office next to me, is a DO, and she does exactly everything that I do.
Wow. So there's an OB-GYN DO, blah, blah, blah DO, like a DO version of...
Yeah, they're in every specialty. They're in every specialty. I know a general surgeon DO. I know an internist DO. Like they're
they finish their training and they go into they apply to the same residency programs that we apply to.
Okay. And then do you guys have annual recertification of stuff, whatever? Or every so many years you have to be recertified?
Depends on your specialty and what you do. Some specialties are, and it depends on when you trained. There are some, and when you completed them. So when you say certifications, it depends if you're board certified. There are physicians that are not. They're not board certified or board eligible. Those physicians are generally considered general practitioners.
Wait. Okay, so there is board certified and non-board certified, but they're doctors? Is that what you're saying?
So that's different than licensure.
Okay.
So when you finish medical school, or to be fully inclusive, DO school, right?
Okay.
Once you finish that and have successfully completed that program and you have a certificate, like your diploma, you can then be addressed as doctor. So you're Dr. whoever because you finished your doctorate degree. Now, what you can do with that doctorate then depends on what you do after that point. So you then have to finish an internship, which is postgraduate training.
Okay.
It's typically a year. It could be in whatever, but it's usually kind of general. And that once you successfully complete that, and it's not like you go, then you take a test and then you're done. You have to spend a certain amount of hours doing X, Y, and Z. And then your program has to certify you for your state medical board. And then what happens is once you have successfully completed that and finished all the testing that's done on a federal level, so there's 3 parts of the United States medical licensing exam. One part, 2 parts of them are taken in med school, 1 part at the end of your residency. Those are big, federally kind of managed exams. Once you finish those exams, then you apply for your state medical license. You can apply to wherever you're living or where you might be living or whatever the situation is.
Wow.
And you get your medical license. So then you're granted a medical license. That's a multi-month process, right? I'm sure everything is streamlined now because everything's online. Mm-hmm. And you get your license to practice medicine. Now you can set up shop somewhere. You can say this is Dr. Foz's office or Dr. Ray's office. You can write prescriptions. You can order things for patients. You have full scope to practice medicine. I have a medical license. My license, just like all physicians' licenses, is a license as a physician and surgeon. So that means that I could do your brain surgery.
Really?
Now, whether you would want me to do that, that's a whole other story, right? So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so your license allows you to do everything that a physician does. Then board certification is on top of that. So board certification is you then finish a residency in a specialty, whether it's family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, OBGYN, general surgery, ear, nose, throat surgery, ophthalmology, whatever ologies, right? Then you have successfully completed that program and do whatever you need to do. Like for me, for my specialty, I had to then take, just like most, I had to take a board certification exam and meet their requirements for whatever. Mm-hmm. And then once you do all of the things, now you are board certified. So you're a physician, but you are specialized. Now you're certified to be specialized in whatever that is. So like for Dr. Ray, she's a board certified obstetrician and gynecologist. Some specialties. So like, yeah. So some specialties you only need, and I don't think this is the trend as much. Like, I know definitely not in my era, but like, you only need to be board certified once, and then that was it. You didn't have to take the exam again. You still have to do continuing medical education hours. So like the state, wherever you're licensed, wherever your state medical board is that grants you your license, that board will then determine what your continuing medical education requirements are. You have to do X amount of hours of CME. You have to submit that proof to them to continue to maintain your license as active and current. Special board specialties will want more than that. So what my state says and what my board says are different. So whatever my board accepts automatically satisfies the state because it exceeds the state requirements. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow.
And then you do have to maintain it. Now I have, in my life experience, I had a partner who was a different specialist, and she was, significantly older than I was. And, she was board certified, but she only needed to take her board certification exam once. Like basically in her time of training, once you did that, that was it. That doesn't mean regulations and rules and monitoring doesn't go on. It just, she doesn't have to take a big test. I still have to be tested every X amount of years.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's the difference between that. Now, so that's when we were saying that you have physicians who are general practitioners. That's different than primary care or general medicine. These are general practitioners. Sometimes, like one of my old colleagues, her dad was an emergency room physician, but he's an older dude, like had been doing this for 40 years or something. He was not board certified. He was just a GP. Like he didn't finish a residency, but he did this at a time when there was a lot more flexibility of this. I think in generations past, like as long as you got your license and you can kind of do whatever. And then, so even though he's done emergency medicine for 40 years and was good at what he does, if you really looked at what he technically was, he was a GP doing emergency medicine. But that's not a bad thing. That's 40 years of great experience that you don't want to throw away. And just kind of tied to board certification. So people think, okay, well, I only want to see board certified physicians. That's probably what you're going to see a lot of for this reason. For insurance networks, a lot of insurance networks have requirements that their patients have to be seen by certain types of physicians. And so if they're in a huge network, they're probably been vetted pretty well, or at least are, there's requirements. Like every time we turn around, there's some sort of requirement.
Wow.
So you can't hide. It's not that easy. Like when they talk about like what Dr. Ray was talking about, like somebody who's not a surgeon performing surgery, absolutely those things happen. But it's like, how did you get through so many layers of this? Like somebody was sleeping on the job. Like what that basically tells me is whoever did the credentialing at wherever they're at was asleep and didn't really do the credentialing.
Wow. Dr. Ray,
I'm just going to add one thing. Like for me to get a job somewhere, like I can't just like, okay, I don't really like where I'm working, so here's my 2-week notice and I'm going to go work over here. Bye. Like it can take months to get credentialed for a job because they have to track down all of these things.
Wow.
It's not unusual for it to be like at least a 90-day process.
Well, wow, that's overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed.
I hope it made some sense.
Everyone got quiet.
Because I'm trying to process everything. Like you said, that was a lot.
It's a lot.
Did not realize all that complications behind the scenes.
Haha, yeah, I know. I'm in school to be a therapist, so I know I have to do all this extra stuff and licensure and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because your consumer protection agencies are going to want to make sure that you're not, out there to fleece the public. Like, I mean, even contractors have to go through the consumer protection stuff. Like, I mean, anybody who deals with the public like that, they don't want people getting, like, taken.
Do you guys have to do a drug test?
Depends on where you work, actually.
Okay.
But also, California is probably one of the strictest states, right, to get your licensure, and they tend to require more for a lot of people. Is that?
Every state likes to think that they're the strictest. New Yorkers will say that about New York. Floridians will say that about Florida.
No, Florida's a lie. They ain't got no damn restrictions over there.
Now, I knew someone who knew someone an anesthesiologist that was a drug addict
anybody could be a drug addict. That's
right. I mean, for an anesthesiologist.
Well, I don't know if Dr. Ray would have anything to say about this, but like when I was in training, like the stories are always about anesthesia because they're around all of these controlled substances, like they're administering a lot of stuff. And so, you give the patient a little and you give yourself a little kind of stuff. I think to say that anesthesiologists are at risk and anesthesiologists are shady or whatever is, anesthesiologists have a really, really hard job. Yeah. They're really, really smart doctors. Like you can't just be anybody can be an anesthesiologist, not at all. And I think that also to understand that we as physicians are not that different than everybody else. We have the same problems. There are addiction problems. There are health problems. There are financial problems. There's interpersonal problems and divorce and mental health problems and all those things that come along with being human.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask Dr. Ray, I don't know if, Dr. Ray, can you do brain surgery on me?
I don't think so. I would be just as clueless as anyone else. So don't ask me that.
Like Dr. Ray,
I could probably do some abdominal surgery stuff, but I can't go into the brain. The brain is, it takes neurosurgeons 7 years to learn how to do that. There's no way anyone can do it.
Yeah. And I have no business doing I've done surgeries and stuff. I've assisted and all those things, but I have no business doing any surgery. I have no business delivering a baby. I trained to do it and stuff. I could probably do it better than the average Joe on the street, but that doesn't mean I should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys, kind of ask each other, questions and get help, from each other.
Nobody asks me for help. I'm always asking her for help.
Are you kidding? That's really cool to see.
Because you are, like I said before, you are a much better doctor than I am. And with primary care, you need to know a little bit about a lot. And so you need to know a little gynecology. Me as a specialist, when they start talking about primary care problems, I put my hand up and say, go talk to your PCP. Let's move on. So I don't need to ask you the questions because I'm just I'm not even going to try and help you. I'm going to send you back to your PCP.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence, but also sometimes, the thing with the world of primary care, what I've learned is there's a lot of, I've been in this business long enough now to see differences, institutional differences, and I've worked in enough jobs where, okay, this place does it like this and this place does it like this, it little things, right? And it's hilarious to me that a lot of little institutional things are just kind of depending on whoever is in leadership, right? Whoever their medical director likes this. And so there's an emphasis on this. And it's so funny to me, but there's often times when you move around, you will see hey, this is a tenet I've learned in medicine. I've been doing this for 20 years. And now all of a sudden they're not doing this. And I look it up. I'm like, okay, there doesn't seem to be anything different in the literature. I can't imagine that there'd be something ground shaking this. And so that's when I do things go to Dr. Ray, people who know what they're doing and have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know a lot about a little part of medicine. And so.
A lot about a little part of medicine. Okay.
But you know a little about a lot of medicine, right? The jack of all trades.
Wow. Well, I remember a weekend getaway and we're all kind of just complaining how we got there and the traffic and the meetings, and Dr. Ray goes, I just delivered 8 babies today. And we're all just shut up. And, we're asking all these questions, medical questions, and Dr. Ray immediately goes, if it's not below the waist and you're not a woman, don't talk to me. Go ask Dr. Foss. And that was decades ago. And to this day, my dad would be like, oh, you're gonna see Dr. Ray? Could you ask her about this? I said, I don't think you're Dr. Ray's patient.
I used to tell my dad that too. He would start talking to me and he goes, what do you know about tryptophan and its effect on cardiac muscle? And I'm like, Dad, are you a woman? Do you have a uterus or a vagina? No? Okay, then I cannot help you.
Bam! Shut them down.
Yeah.
And poor Dr. Foss. Dr. Foss, what do you think? What do you think? I just want to, we're getting to the end of this. I just want to ask some question. I don't know how much you guys know about it, or that virus from the cruise ship.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, the
help us, educate us, honey, because it is getting crazy.
All right, so since it doesn't affect vaginas, I will defer to Dr. Foz.
Oh no!
This is
not the non-vagina question.
Yeah. Look at that! Did you see that cop out? Look at that!
All right. What is that?
Okay,
so that's not a
what
vagina
you need
question.
to know about hantavirus is that the risk to you is extremely low. It's really hard to catch this stuff. Hantavirus is not unheard of. It does still occasionally happen. It's usually in isolated pockets and places. It's not widespread. It requires either the type of hantavirus that's found in the United States requires contact with rodent. Usually it's going to be rodent excrement, right? So if you have a rat infested house or something, but that's not, even in that population, that's not super common. I don't think you're going to find hantavirus in the heart of Chicago kind of stuff, which I understand is the rat capital of the United States. But the type they're talking about regarding this ship was thought to be from a pair that had gone bird watching on an island that has a lot of rodents and probably picked it up crawling around in the bushes looking at birds, if that makes any sense.
They went to the trash or whatever,
Yeah, someplace
landfill.
It was a
landfill.
Whatever. It's just I don't know the details, so I don't know where they got it exactly. All I know is that there's some sort of leisure activity that in a more particular part of the world that put them at risk. And then it spread outside of that through close contact, and ships are kind of close contact. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the relationships of all the people that have been potentially exposed, but because it requires close contact, it's not like COVID, right? Where somebody coughs or sneezes 4 feet away and you might get it. It's not really like that. So The real threat is not very great to the general public. When it comes to general hantavirus, that is found in the United States, the strains are found in the States, it's also not common. You know how many cases of hantavirus I've seen in my entire career? A big fat zero. It's not common.
Let's say,
and then just take common sense. If you have to clean up rat droppings, wear a mask. Don't let them aerosolize. Spray them down with bleach and then wipe it up and throw it away and wash your hands and things like that. It's just use good common sense.
Now, let's say someone from the cruise ship and is lives in my neighborhood.
Don't go have dinner with them until they've passed the incubation period of 42 days or something.
Wow, 42 days. Okay.
Well, a lot of viruses, how they were talking about, so I'm just going to use COVID as an example. Mm-hmm. You know how they were saying, do you remember early on in the pandemic, if you were 10 days out, then you were cool? Even if you had full blown COVID, once you were past 10 days of illness, you might still have a runny nose or a little cough, but as long as you were better and not having fevers and it had been more than 10 days and all that stuff, then you could go out in public and you were fine. It was not a big deal. Did you know there's still something 2% of people or 12% of people, some small percentage, I don't remember what it is exactly now, we're still contagious at that point.
Mm.
So, a lot of these you're not going to get sick after the third day or something. That's not really, really true. And I think in this circumstance, they're calling it the full length of known infectivity because it has such a high mortality rate.
Got it. Wow. Okay. Well,
so it's not a huge threat for the average person, and just make sure that you handle any rodent infestations in your home with some degree of common sense. Having said that, even if you have rodents in your home, it's probably not a huge hantavirus actual threat.
Okay. That's good to hear. And I have a few questions from our writers here. Let me just go through our, we have
writers.
some feedback that we got from the public. I
thought everybody who listened to that podcast was currently on here.
I know, right?
The only one we're missing is Beezus. Where's Beezus today?
Ooh, Beezus. See, you are missed.
SJ,
right?
And yeah,
Oh, you're good with the memory.
And there's just a couple.
Yeah. So getting a contrast. That's kind of when they put ink in your system and blah blah blah. How long does contrast stay in your system, and how do you
intravenous contrast for like CT
for like
MRI?
Like for a scan?
Probably hours at the most.
Hours. Okay.
Well, probably not. I don't honestly know. It's not meant to be retained. I know that it has to be given shortly before the study, so it's probably completely removed within a couple hours. Like at that point, but I don't know. Never cared.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. The second question we have here is LASIX. That's LISIX versus LASIK. LASIK,
which is the eye procedure.
The eye procedure is LASIK. LASIX. I heard that when you get LASIX, why do you get LASIX? Or typically, why do people get LASIX? And
so LASIX is a loop diuretic. It's really the generic. LASIX is a trade name. The generic name is furosemide, and it's classically given for congestive heart failure. But it's given in times when you need to remove excessive water or fluid buildup for whatever reason. Sometimes used for hypertension management, though it's like not a great choice for that.
And does that make people go pee?
Yeah, it's a diuretic. And so what that does is it takes extra water out of the body and has you pee it off.
Okay. And you have to go pee. I mean, there's no getting around it.
Well, you're going to pee. It is sometimes given in patients who have some renal insufficiency, and so they may not pee as well. But yeah, I mean, you'll pee.
Got it. Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions before we end this? This was a good episode.
It was. No, I'm actually still processing everything that we learned earlier.
Just remember, Department of Consumer Affairs is there to protect you, including from like the medical or healthcare provider, like point of view, like social workers and all that stuff too.
Wow. All right. Well, if anyone that is watching, because this is now a video podcast, or listening to us, if you have any questions for future episodes, just send an email to question@betweendoctorsandfriends.com. And if it bounces, then, what can we do? All right. That ends this episode.